My old pal Thomas Merton wrote, "Contemplation can be suggested by words, by symbols, but in the very moment of trying to indicate what it knows, the contemplative mind takes back what it has said and denies what it has affirmed." So, how do I talk about contemplation then? My response, briefly. Hey everyone, it's Paul, and this is Contemplify. My intention here is to grasp at words that give shape to the formless abiding, even if only for a moment. If we are lucky here today, I'll communicate some semblance of that in the second installment of the Life of a Day series here on Contemplify. So there is this contemplative rhythm in some monasteries of the Christian tradition called the Divine Office, or the Liturgy of the Hours. Today's episode is the second of a series I'll be doing on the reimagining of the Divine Office into my own personal reflective interpretations as a contemplative in the world. The intention is to mark each of the hours, but in a form very different from the regular practice behind monastery walls. In other words, this is what a contemplative rhythm looks like in my particular life. This should be a fun and grand, playful experiment. With that in mind, for my second reinterpretation, I'll be exploring the divine hour called Terce. So for the sake of us all, here is how that is traditionally defined. Terce, a service forming part of the divine office of the Western Christian Church, traditionally said or chanted at around 9 a.m. So after putting my own spin on Terce in relationship to my daily contemplative sit back and relax into the divine hour of Terce and how it appears in the context of my life. There are a whole host of contemplative practices and postures one can embody. Wisdom teacher Barbara Holmes says, contemplation can occur anywhere. So just note that. Today I'll be sharing just one such practice that calls to me a contemplative sit. I first dipped into the silent spring of this practice at the age of 21, and then wholeheartedly, and sometimes sleepily, committed to it a few years later. For me, contemplative sit, and you gotta watch how you pronounce that, is practicing a posture of new perception, of releasing what is fixating my attention, be it an attachment to an outcome, or a lovely spontaneous thought stream about my beloved wife that appears in my mind's eye. Either way, the practice is relinquishing whatever form or object is blocking my abiding to the present moment of reality. This is no easy task, but a practice easy in theory. And what makes this an easy and endlessly unfolding practice is that it is self-generating. It instantaneously creates opportunities for me to fail and return to where I started in the first place. And this is one of the jewels of the practice, the cultivation of beginner's mind through moment-by-moment releasing of thoughts, not from resisting thoughts. With time and devotion, this release of thoughts and cultivation of beginner's mind has the potential to shift your perception throughout the entirety of the day. Some days I feel like a contemplative master in my practice, but more often I feel like I'm riding pine on the JV contemplative team. As the old saying goes, practice makes practice. I participate in a daily contemplative sit, not because I'm smart, holy, or even spiritual, but because it kindles my inner fire, a fire that warms me and threatens to burn me as I get closer. But I sometimes wonder if I warm the fire as well. Is our relationship so intertwined that the fire is dependent on my participation to grow larger? I think so. I release my attachments like logs rolling into the fire. As the fire enlarges, my focus softens. Sitting around this fire strengthens my backbone to ready myself to hold the posture of knowing and unknowing. So this is part of my own contemplative Christian tradition, sitting in the seat of knowing and unknowing, my showing up in my body, and my entire mysterious fleshy being is the biggest hurdle for my practice. If left to my natural temperament, I'd choose a touch more sleep. and this is very much the birthplace of my personal approach to contemplative sit. I come to sit with the very knowledge that I am participating in a practice that appears commonplace and mundane as tuning an instrument. But under the guise of closed eyes and solemn face, I'm giving myself over to a finer attunement with reality. If I am willing to be tuned, the tonal quality of my participation in reality is enriched. I can see all of my contemplative metaphors are blushing at their moment in the spotlight. For me, a contemplative sit is for now and for later. It's a practicing of abiding, of deepening into the presence of this moment with all of reality at my fingertips.